Football, a game that captivates millions, a global powerhouse worth billions. Have you ever asked yourself where it all began? In all likelihood, the same answer springs to mind for us all, England. But what if I told you that this story began thousands of years before the modern rules were ever penned in London? What if I told you it started in the East, in China? Meet Cuju, the oldest game acknowledged by FIFA and historians as the ancestor of football. The name literally means kicking the ball. In the Han Dynasty, this wasn't for fun. It was a military drill, a tough regimen built to give soldiers speed and stamina. The setup was simple. Two teams, head to head. An obstacle stands between two posts with a small hole in the middle. Goal is to kick the ball through that target. Eventually, it moved from army camps to imperial courts. In the Song Dynasty, it evolved into an art. It wasn't about scoring, it was about style and skill. Dropping the ball, that was the ultimate era. Does that format ring a bell? 2 words, Eric Cantona. For my generation, that commercial brings only one thing to mind: Oga Bonito. We leave behind the disciplined courts of the East, the elegance and honor of China's. Now we travel west, to the heart of an empire forged in iron, to the bloodiest era of sports history, ancient Rome. Here, the game wasn't about art, it was about survival. When Greek aesthetics met Roman military pragmatism, the result wasn't art. It was Harpastum. The Romans called it the small ball game. But don't let the name fool you. This was the hardened, disciplined evolution of everything that came before. The name tells you the objective. It comes from the Greek harpazo, literally to snatch. The philosophy shifted entirely. It wasn't about throwing the ball anymore. It was about seizing it, intercepting it, and the ball itself, it was a weapon. The pila, forget the air-filled balls. This was small, hard, and stitched from leather, stuffed solid with hair or wool. Excavations at the Vindolanda fort prove that even at the frozen edges of the empire, soldiers played with this exact equipment. The rules were intense. Historians believe it was an inverted game. The goal wasn't just to advance, but to keep possession at all costs. The key figure was the Medicurant, the man in the middle. Think of a modern defensive midfielder, but with a license to wrestle. His job, cut the traffic, take the man down. Because Harpastum was full contact warfare. Galen described it as wrestling mixed with running, necklocks, tack, choking. It was all part of the game. The chaos was so real that in one account, a spectator got too excited, ran onto the field, and ended up with a broken leg. That is the spirit of Rome. In medieval Europe, this wasn't a sport. It was ritualized warfare, played during festivals like Shrove Tuesday. Absolute chaos reigned. But there was a bizarre twist to these games. And what was that twist? There was no pitch. The battlefield was simply miles of open land stretching between two rival towns. And there was only one rule: no murder or manslaughter. Beyond that, kicking, punching, fighting, everything was fair game. The kings loathed this chaos. Starting in 1314, monarchs from Edward II to Henry VIII banned the game. Why? Because it caused a great noise and distracted men from essential military training. But here's the irony. The very same Henry VIII who banned the game commissioned custom leather football boots for himself, costing 4 shillings. Proof that even for the nobility, football remained a secret indulgence. Chaos gave way to order in the 19th century, within the walls of England's elite public schools. Schools like Charterhouse and Winchester played their own distinct versions, but there was a problem. Nobody could play against each other. Take Eton College. They developed the field game and the wall game. They emphasized dribbling and banned using hands. Their big contribution? The crossbar. Then there was Rugby School, famous for letting players catch and run with the ball. Whether the legend of William Webb Ellis is true or not, their rules favored the hand. In 1845, they codified their laws, even banning projecting nails and iron plates on boots and Harrow School. They used a heavy, catchy ball, but no running allowed. Their goal posts looked like rugby posts without a top bar. The result of this fragmentation? When an Eton grad met a rugby grad on the pitch, it was a brawl. To stop the madness, Cambridge students nailed new rules to trees in 1848. No more brute force. Skill was now the name of the game. Fast forward to October 26, 1863. The Freemasons Tavern in London. Ebenezer Cobb Morley, a lawyer and captain of Barnes F.C., had written a letter to Bell's Life newspaper suggesting a governing body for the sport. Answering Morley's call, representatives from 11 clubs and schools gathered. The founding lineup included names like Barnes, the War Office, Crusaders, Crystal Palace, and Blackheath. Over 44 days, 6 meetings were held to solidify the new association. The FA was born in the very first session, but agreeing on the rules, that was a painful process. Inside that smoke-filled room, an ideological war raged. On one side, those who wanted to run with the ball and hack at opponents' shins. On the other, those who insisted football was a game of skill. On December 8, 1863, at the final meeting, the majority voted to ban hacking and handling. The Blackheath representative was furious. He argued that banning shin kicking would kill the courage of the game and stormed out. That day, rugby and football parted ways forever. Modern football was born right at that table. Once the rules were set, football went global. It became the unofficial export of the British Empire. But the carriers weren't diplomats in suits. They were engineers, sailors, and railway workers. Picture this: European sailors playing kickabouts in foreign ports, mesmerizing the locals. That spark ignited in 1867 with the founding of the Buenos Aires Football Club. As British companies laid tracks across the Andes and the Pampas, they brought more than just steel. They brought footballs. Figures like Isaac Newell were pivotal. Graduates from his school founded Newell's Old Boys. In Uruguay, railway workers founded the Central Uruguay Railway Cricket Club in 1891, known today as the Giants Peñarol. Then there's Charles Miller, the father of Brazilian football. When he returned from England in 1894, his suitcase held more than just clothes. Inside, he packed the seeds of a revolution. 2 footballs, a pump, and a rulebook. Just like in South America, football in Europe hitched a ride with British sailors. Ports like Le Havre in France and Bilbao in Spain became gateways for the game. Calais played a critical role too, as British travelers, and later soldiers in World War I, planted the flag of football on French soil. In the industrial hubs of northern Italy and Germany's Ruhr Valley, British engineers were hard at work. They laid the foundations for legendary clubs that still bear English names today. Take AC Milan, originally founded as the Milan Cricket and Football Club. Let's look at the official records. The first international match took place on November 30th, 1872 in Glasgow, Scotland versus England. The result? A gridlock 0-0. As the 20th century rolled in, football fever swept the globe. It knocked on the door of the Olympics in 1900 and 1904, but only as a demonstration sport. No medals, just for show. Then came the turning point, May 21st, 1904, Paris. Representatives from 7 nations gathered. The mastermind behind it was Robert Guérin, a journalist for Le Matin. He became the driving force and was elected as FIFA's first president. Notice who was missing? The English FA. They snubbed the meeting, calling it unnecessary. But the so-called inventors of the game couldn't stay away for long. They joined a year later. By 1906, Daniel Burley Woolfall took the helm as FIFA's first English president. At the 1908 London Games, football finally became an official Olympic event. Great Britain, represented by the English amateur team, struck gold, not just in London, but again in Stockholm in 1912. In 1914, FIFA stepped up, recognizing the Olympic tournament as a World Football Championship for amateurs. Belgium took the title in 1920, but then a new power emerged. Uruguay dominated, seizing gold in 1924 and 1928. With interest exploding, FIFA President Jules Rimet had a bigger vision. He didn't just want to be part of the Olympics, he wanted a tournament of his own. May 28, 1928, Amsterdam. The decision was made, a standalone world championship. And who better to host the inaugural tournament than the back-to-back Olympic champion Uruguay? But there was a catch. Crossing the Atlantic was grueling and expensive. 2 months before kickoff, not a single European team had signed up. After Rimet begged and pleaded, 4 nations finally agreed: Yugoslavia, Romania, Belgium, and France. With 7 South American, 4 European, and 2 North American teams, a legend was born with just 13 nations. History was made when France beat Mexico 4-1. The man of the moment was Frenchman Lucien Laurent, scoring the first ever goal in World Cup history. The finale unfolded at the colossal Estadio Centenario in Montevideo. In front of 90,000 screaming fans, Uruguay defeated Argentina 4-2 to lift the very first World Cup. Hit the like button and subscribe to support the channel. Until our next retro deep dive, take care.